Hey friends, this is Cass with Garden House Treasures. Thanks for stopping in. Today I'm going to be showing you how to make these polymer clay succulents, 4 different styles. So let's get started. For this project I'll be using a glass trivet, an acrylic roller, some ball tools, some circle cutters, some Primo Sculpey polymer clay. This is the one we're going to be starting with today. And this one I made in bright green pearl Primo Sculpey. And I just tore off a piece of that clay and I'm massaging it, conditioning it in my hands, and then I rolled it into a ball and pressed it down onto my trivet. And it's just best to work on glass or ceramic when you're working with polymer clay so that your clay doesn't stick to your surface. And here I'm just rolling it out. I usually roll it pretty thin, I'd say about 1/8 of an inch thick. And then I'm picking out 2 circle cutters. I want one to be slightly smaller than the other one so that I get 2 different size petals. And you definitely don't have to have these circle cutters for this project. You can roll your clay into a log and cut similar sizes to make your petals. So I'm going to start with my larger pieces. I'm just going to take it and I'm going to roll it into a ball in my fingers. And then I'm going to take one side of this little ball and I'm just going to pinch it. Just pinching it in my fingers here, and then I'm going to flatten the whole piece down and you'll get this nice little leaf shape. Then I'm going to take my ball tool and I'm going to kind of start at the top and roll it down towards the bottom to put this little pocket in it and add some dimension to the leaf. And make sure you roll that ball tool and don't drag it, or you'll just kind of pull your clay down. And I'm just showing it to you one more time, pinching it, my fingers on one side and flattening to get a nice leaf shape, and rolling the ball tool down. You're going to repeat this same process for all your small and large leaves. I like to work on this jar lid to make things a bit easier. I'm going to take a small ball of clay and press it to the center of my jar lid. Using one of my ball tools, I'm going to grab one of the larger leaves and I'm going to press it to the outside of my clay that I've pushed onto the jar. And I'm going to do this with my large leaves going all the way around. And I kind of just like to let the bases of the leaves connect. And you can put as many or as few leaves as you like on these. I usually do about 5 around the bottom for this type of succulent. Now we're going to do the second layer. So these are just going to kind of go on the inside of your base layer of leaves. And I put them in between the base layer leaves. And these are going to overlap, and that's fine. I think the succulent looks a little more natural that way. And I'm going to be using the same amount that I use for the base layer, so I'll be using 5 on the inside too, for a total of 10 of the larger leaves. So now we're going to go ahead and make the bud and the inside of our succulent. So I have 2 of my smaller leaves here, and as you can see I just kind of overlap them on each other. And then I'm just going to kind of roll them together to make a little bud for the middle of my succulent. Now I've taken another one of my small leaves and I'm just attaching the base of it to the base of my bud, and I'm just making sure it's on there securely. And I'm going to do this with 3 more of my smaller leaves to put 4 of the little leaves around the bud. And I apologize, I kind of went off camera here a little bit. Now what I didn't do in here, but what I will do for my future succulents, is I did not cut off the base of this bud, which would make it a little more even with the rest of the succulent. But to get it to stick to the inside of my succulent, I'm going to go ahead and score the bottom of the bud, and that just means I'm taking something sharp and kind of scraping some lines into it. And I'm also going to be scoring the center of my succulent. And some people like to use liquid polymer clay to bond some of their pieces together, but I found that scoring actually works really well and makes it very secure. But liquid polymer clay would work just as well. So I'm just using a very small ball tool in the center of my bud to secure it into the rest of the succulent. And this is our finished piece here. In order not to warp it, I'm just going to take my straight blade and I'm just going to scrape it right off of this jar lid. And that's what we have. This is the second one I'm going to show you how to make. I'm also going to be using bright green pearl in Sculpey Primo. And I just went ahead and used some smaller size cutters for this one, just to show you guys the different sizes you can make. You can make these succulents in absolutely any size. You can make them on a very large scale or a very, very small scale. It's anything you need for whatever project you're making. So for this, we're literally going to start it out the exact same way as our first succulent, just rolling it into a ball, pinching the end there, and flattening it to make that nice little leaf shape. And we'll be doing this with all of our pieces, small and large. And again, same thing as the first succulent, we're just going to secure some clay onto this jar lid. Now instead of putting the round part of my petal on the center of this clay here, I'm going to stick the pointy end to the clay so that the round end is on the outside. And we're just going to go all the way around in a circle. And I am going to use more leaves for this one than I used for my first succulent, because the smaller end is in the middle. It just looks better and fuller, I think, if you do more leaves. So I believe I end up using 6 or 7 here. And then same thing as the first. We're going to go on the inside with that second layer in between the petals of the base layer, and go ahead and let these overlap if you need to. So for the bud, again, we're going to be doing the exact same thing as the first succulent. I'm just kind of flattening these smaller pieces a little bit to make them a little easier to roll together. And then we're just going to kind of overlap them here. And of course you can't see because I went off camera, but I overlapped them and rolled them together exactly the same way as I did for the first succulent. But I did let the round pieces stick up and the pointy pieces are going to be at the bottom. And then we're going to take our leaves and place them around, just like on the first one. I'm going to do 4 around, letting the narrow end be at the base of the bud this time. So this time I remembered to cut the base off of my bud. And I'm just using my straight blade to do that. So I'm just cutting the base off. Don't cut it so far up that you end up separating the pieces from your bud. And then I'm just doing the exact same thing for the first one. We're going to score the bottom of this bud with a needle tool or any kind of, X-Acto knife or whatever you have. Just go ahead and score that. Score the inside of your succulent. And then I'm taking a small ball tool and I'm securing that bud to the center of my succulent. Once I'm done, I'm going to take my straight blade and remove it from the jar lid once again. Then you've got the finished piece. This is the third style we're going to do, and I'm still using Sculpey Primo. This time it's in the color Wasabi. And we are starting this succulent out the exact same way we started out the first two, conditioning a small ball of clay, choosing our cutter sizes, how large or small we want it to be, and cutting several circles. So I've got my circles cut. Now I'm going to go ahead and shape my leaves, doing the exact same thing, pinching the end, flattening it. So this time I wanted to give a little curve to my leaves. So I'm just going to go ahead and place it on one of my larger ball tools to give it this nice little curve. And it doesn't seem to make much of a difference, but once the succulent's all put together, you can see that just a small detail actually makes a huge difference and makes the succulent look very nice. And I'm just kind of showing you again here how I'm shaping it. And I did this with all my leaves, small and large, once again, except for the two pieces that I was using for this center of the bud. You don't have to curve those, you can just make them into your leaf shape. And of course I put some clay in the middle of my jar lid. And we're gonna assemble this the same way that we assembled our first one. We're just taking a ball tool and we're putting it around this little piece of clay, letting the bases of each leaf connect. And I believe I did 5 around this one as well. And of course we're doing our second layer the exact same way, going towards the center of our succulent on the inside of those base pieces in between each two. Go ahead and let them overlap and layer. And here's what you've got before the bud. We're taking our 2 smaller pieces, we're going to overlap them. And this time I think you guys should be able to see how I kind of just rolled them together to make that little bud. I like to nitpick at everything, so. And of course, taking some more of our smaller leaves and just placing them around that bud. And I think I decided to just use 3 leaves to go around my bud this time. Just, you gotta change it up every once in a while. And I thought it looked nice that way. And just trimming off the base to make it more dimensional with my succulent. And we're just scoring the center of our succulent. And I've already scored the base of my bud and using a ball tool in the middle of that bud to place it and secure it in the center there. You guys can see how the edges of those leaves really are turned upwards from us curving them on that ball tool. It just really made all the difference and makes this succulent look really pretty. This is the 4th succulent. I'm using Sculpey Primo in the color Fuchsia. And I'm doing the same size I did for the very first succulent for this one. So same thing, cutting out all our circles or cutting our clay to size for our petals. And so to shape these ones, we're just pinching both sides actually to kind of get this diamond shape. So you're going to pinch it on each side and then flatten it. And then I'm also putting these on the ball tools to shape them. Pinch, 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 squish. Pinch, 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 squish. Pinch, pinch, pinch. And of course we're securing some clay to the center of our jar lid. And of course we're using a ball tool to place our little leaves. I'm pretty sure I ended up using a 7 around the base for this one because the leaves are thinner and they come to a point down in the middle where we're securing them, so there's just more space and it just helps it look more full if we add a couple extra. And same exact thing, taking that second layer in the center, going around, placing them in between those base leaves. Let them overlap if you'd like. Now for the bud of this, what we're actually going to do is the exact same thing we did with the first 3. I know you did not see that coming. So we're twisting 2 small ones together once again, and then we'll take our other small leaves and we'll place them around this bud, and I think I used 4 around this one again. Now, of course, trimming off the bottom of our bud, I will once again score the bottom of this, score the center of my succulent, and secure it in place. I wanted to make this tutorial as well as my polymer clay rose tutorial and my simple polymer clay flower tutorial because I use these succulents and the flowers in several other projects that I make. So I can just link these videos to those projects. So be sure to keep an eye out for future videos. And here we have our finished piece for that final succulent. Now what I like to do with these is take a little bit of mica powder or chalk pastels, and then I have this little brush that I got from Dollar Tree, and I just brush the very tips of each leaf with a little bit of powder, and it just adds so much to these succulents. So I did rose gold for this guy and the more rounded succulent. And then on the fuchsia succulent, I went ahead and went with this violet mica powder, and I'm so glad I did because I absolutely love how this one turned out. For the first succulent we made, I went with a gold Here's our finished succulents before I baked them. Always bake according to your clay instructions. These I baked at 275 for about 15 minutes, and these are them after they've been baked. Thanks for watching this video. If you liked it, go ahead and give it a thumbs up and subscribe for future videos. I hope you learned something today. God bless.